John likes tech and lives in Indiana, you know. Kevin likes the Dodgers and talks on the radio. John plays games on Xbox and on his Nintendo, while Kevin runs around LA with his mustachio. It's the Lack of Genius podcast, in your ear holes at last. They don't know they're Mars from Venus, that's why it's the Lack of Genius podcast. What do you think, John? We're gonna get you doing backup vocals on that song one of these days?
I don't know. Maybe.
I bet you have a nice little like an alto voice. I bet you got some vocals in there.
I mean, I was in choir for a year or two at Manchester. Was in some operas, but just sang in the chorus. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, after hearing my voice, it's probably a good thing I wasn't in any choirs or. Well, hey John, it's good to see you. I'm Kevin, and that's John, and this is episode 4, right?
Yeah, episode 4
of the Lack of Genius podcast.
Yeah, we've officially made it a month now.
Wow, look at it. We should have had a 1-month anniversary, John.
Is that really a thing for podcasts?
Maybe not for podcasts, but for our friendship, for our relationship. We should start celebrating every little minor celebration that we can.
Fair enough.
I am very grateful to be reunited with you, reconnected, not just because it's nice being your friend, but because look at the gift that it gave us, a chance to do this podcast together. Yeah. So very cool. We are in episode 4, and today we are focusing on 2 of our favorite TV shows. John, you're representing Star Trek.
Yep.
And I am representing the television show Survivor. Yeah, do you have anything you want to say about Star Trek? We'll get into the quizzes in a minute, but just as an introduction.
I think it's just good sci-fi. You know, it does what I think sci-fi is supposed to do. It puts everyday stuff in a new light to where it makes you think about it without realizing that's what it's doing.
Wow, that's a great description, John. And that's, because I don't have a ton of Star Trek knowledge. My grandpa and my dad, both huge Star Trek fans. And so I have a little bit of periphery Star Trekness in my life, but that is a very accurate description.
And the newer stuff, which, you know, some people hate, some people really like, tends to be the people that don't like it. Maybe there's a reason they don't like it. Maybe it's hitting a little too close to home for them.
Yeah. Well, so I'm excited for that. John has prepared a quiz for me about Star Trek to see just how much genius I lack on that subject. And I have prepared a quiz on the television show Survivor, 5-question quiz. We've each done 5 questions. I'm a big fan of the show. I said last episode it's almost like a guilty pleasure because it's almost embarrassing. Most people don't even know Survivor is still on the air. But yeah, I watch every season now. Ironically, I did not watch season 1. I think I've seen every season now. And yeah, so I'm excited to do this quiz. But before we get to these quizzes, we have we'll call it our tidy up section.
Yeah, that works.
What we do here is if we have any errors from the episode that we caught or that anybody, called us out on, this is where we'll clean those up and just any business items that we have going on. It's like a formal it's like a board meeting here. Do you second this notion to go to tidy up period, John?
I do. I don't think I had any errors. No one called me out on anything, so I don't know if anyone called you out or not.
No, I was pretty perfect, I'll be honest. But we did have a business piece.
Yeah, we did something big last week, and Kevin and I, we kind of talked about this, before we even really started the podcast, if it was something that we wanted to do, and we decided that we were going to wait a little bit to see if we actually wanted to continue with this, and if we were able to do it consistently. And so far, I think we both want to keep doing it.
So this is a bad time to tell you that I'm quitting the podcast, or no?
That'd be an okay time, I suppose.
Okay,
better
carry
sooner
on.
than later.
No, I'm all in. We are both all in. It's very exciting.
But we decided to start a Patreon. We don't have physical things to give away or anything like that. So, the different tiers and being a patron of us, we're gonna release the episodes early for you guys. If people want us to do it, we'll do monthly. Ask us anything.
AMAs, they call them in the business.
Yep,
Ask
AMAs.
me anything. Just to back up for a sec, just in case there's somebody who's not familiar with Patreon. It's essentially a way for you to contribute to our show financially. And it's not necessary. We don't need you to do that to listen. It's just if you like what you hear, this money goes to covering the cost for like our website and the various things that we use to run this podcast and maybe eventually get us some better equipment. But certainly no requirement whatsoever. We just want to have this in place so that once we get humongous and everybody's listening to us, it's already there. Is basically the idea.
Yeah.
So how do we get that? How do we find Patreon if we're listening right now?
If you just go to patreon.com and search for us, you can do that. I think we're at just patreon.com/lackofgenius.
And I think with that, we should just get into the quizzes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. You asked the first question last week, so I will do it this week.
Okay, yes. So you're going to start by asking me the first Star Trek question. And I have the quiz open. Again, these quizzes are all at lackofgenius.com. You can take the quizzes yourself before every episode. And that's the exact quiz that we're going to take right now.
Yep. So you ready?
I am ready. Bring it on.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh.
Who does Nichelle Nichols credit for not quitting the show? Now, Nichelle Nichols was Lieutenant Uhura in the original series.
Okay.
So back in the 60s, who does she credit for not quitting the show?
Oh, like what? She's saying, I didn't quit the show because of this person.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay, I like it. Okay, go ahead.
Malcolm X, Abraham Lincoln,
Wow.
Martin Luther King Jr., or Barack Obama?
Well, you gave me a great clue in that this was the original series. So I'm guessing, my guess would be Barack Obama is not the correct answer there because he's a little bit more current. He was probably alive then. Yes, he was, in fact. But, God, I freaked out when I saw this question because I was like, oh, my God, who's Nichelle Nichols? So Barack Obama's eliminated. I think Abraham Lincoln is unless she's going way back, like ending slavery. Maybe, but Martin Luther King Jr. is jumping out at me. And I'm going to select it on my quiz right now. That's what I'm choosing, Martin Luther King Jr.
Correct.
Woo! Go, Kevin, go!
Although Abraham Lincoln did make an appearance on the original series, it wasn't him. But Nichelle Nichols, evidently was having a rough time and was thinking of quitting the show until she actually had a conversation with Martin Luther King Jr., where basically he said something to the effect of, you're giving the African American community something they've never seen before. Representation in the future.
Wow.
And so that's what inspired her to stay on the show. And her being on the show is actually what made Whoopi Goldberg want to be on The Next Generation, because she saw Nichelle Nichols on the show and Whoopi wanted to continue that representation.
It's a long line of inspiration being passed on from, and what's pretty amazing to me is, one, that she actually had a conversation with Martin Luther King Jr. I was thinking it was like, he just really inspired me for the work he did. No, she got direct conversation from him. And then what I really love about what you just said is, it's not just that, even today, there's not enough African-American representation in television, in my opinion. And I think we're making great strides at that. But the fact that he acknowledged, this is an African-American person being represented in the future.
Yeah.
Not just in the present, but in the future. That's progress. That's great. Well, thanks for that knowledge. So I'm 1 for 1, and we're going to jump right into our first Survivor question for you, John. In the 40 seasons of Survivor that have aired, yes, 40 seasons, and you'll note that I said that have aired because they have filmed, I believe, seasons 41 and 42, but they don't come out till next fall. So, in the 40 seasons of Survivor that have aired, how many contestants have there been all time? How many contestants? 340, 490, 590, 640.
So, I'm going to say it's not the 640, because there's 14 or 16 contestants that start off at each season, because I know for a fact that they have done multiple seasons where they just bring back people that have already been on the show.
That's correct, yeah.
So it's not going to be 40 times whatever. I'm going to go with 340.
340 is your final answer?
Yep.
Sorry, dude. 590.
590.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Survivor is they actually will change up how many they have per season. In fact, I was reading about how there have been actually 2 times where they had all their contestants lined up and then somebody quit the night before. There was one contestant who quit the night before and had a lot of anxiety, and they just didn't replace her. And then there was one where it was a sister combo. They were playing as families, and they had a family emergency come up, and they got pulled out. But yeah, all right. So now you know 590 human beings have played the game of Survivor.
Okay. You ready for your next one?
Number 2 for Star Trek.
Who helped produce the original series? So, what studio
Okay.
was the original series filmed at?
Okay.
Warner Brothers, NBC, ABC,
Wow.
or Desilu?
Oh my goodness. Well, okay, I'll be honest that Desilu pops out right away because that isn't where one's mind would go,
Mhm.
And it could be that you chose that as like a kind of bizarre answer, but I got to be honest, I think I want that to be the correct answer. And so I'm going to try to will it into truth, and I'm going to choose Desilu. That's Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz's production company. I'm choosing it, Desilu.
Correct.
Yeah, that's amazing. Tell me the story behind that. That's so fascinating.
If memory serves, Gene Roddenberry, he wrote the script for Star Trek.
Is that like the head writer of Gene Roddenberry?
He's the one that created it. He saw it as Wagon Train to the Stars. It was kind of a Western, but in space.
Cool.
And from my understanding, he kind of shopped it around to a few other places, and no one really wanted it. So Lucille Ball saw it and loved it, and Desilu is where they filmed it.
Lucille Ball was the first Star Trek fan then, I think, is what that means.
Pretty much.
That's amazing. That is knowledge. You just dropped some major knowledge on the people there, John.
It happens.
It happens. Sometimes it just happens, man. That's great. All right. So, my turn to ask you a question. I'm 2 for 2. You're 0 for 1, man. For the first time in history, I'm beating you.
You are.
Okay, let's go to this one. In the history of Survivor, how many 2-time winners have there been? As you mentioned, many people played the game multiple times. How many times has somebody won twice? 0, 1, 2, or 19?
Well, I'm immediately going to rule out 19 because that would be literally almost half of the seasons would have been a second-time winner.
It is technically possible.
It is possible, but I feel like it's happened at least once, so I'm going to rule out 0 as well.
That leaves you with 1 or 2 for how many 2-time winners have there been in Survivor history?
I want to go with 2.
Are you going to?
I'm going 2.
Going with 2. Nice, John. Wow. I was hoping you were going to go with 0, but you had a memory that it had happened already. Yeah, the 2 to do it. The first one to do it is Sandra Diaz Twine. She's like a villain of Survivor. She's the self-proclaimed queen of Survivor, but really she's won the game twice, and so she sort of is. I'm not personally a fan of her gameplay, but I got to say, look, she won the game twice. The first 2 times she played, she won the game. She ended up playing 4 times total, and she did not win the last 2 times. And then just this last season, they did, which was before COVID, so it was over a year ago that it aired. They did an all-winners version. So it was 20 winners that they brought back, and it was so awesome. I had a lot of fun watching, and a dude named Tony Vlachos, I don't even know how to say his last name, but I know him as Tony. He's a cop from New York, and a guy that I hated the first time he played. When he won, he played 2 more times in between, got eliminated early, played the 4th time, and I actually really loved the way he played the game, so I was happy for him. So there you go, two 2-time winners in Survivor history.
Cool.
Oh, all right. So number 3 for Star Trek, right?
Yep. How many series are there? 10, 5,
Wow.
12, or 9?
Does this mean TV series? Like how many
Yes.
TV series are there? Okay.
Yeah, not counting movies.
All right. So I know there was like as far as I know, the original was the one, and you obviously don't tell me if I'm right or wrong, but it was the one with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. It's what's kind of in between that gets a little hazy, but I know the Next Generation, I think that might have been next with Patrick Stewart. Deep Space Nine was a different show, I think. There was one that had the word Odyssey in it, I want to say, and I can picture the cast. I got to be honest, I want to go with the lowest number 5, because I can only come up with 3 or 4 off the top of my head. So I'm going to go with 5 television series of Star Trek.
Incorrect.
Man.
Up until a few years ago, 5 would have been a lot closer. But the answer is 10.
Oh my gosh, you fill me in, please.
So you have the original series with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy and George Takei.
Yes.
You've got the animated series
Was that next?
That was next.
Wow.
Then you had Next Generation with Patrick Stewart and Jonathan
Okay.
Frakes and
Uh-huh.
all of them. So that's 3. Deep Space Nine,
Ah, I was right.
which is one of my favorites.
Cool.
Emily and I are actually currently rewatching that for the first time for her. So,
Nice.
and then Voyager, which I think is what you were thinking of as Odyssey,
Voyager, yeah, uh-huh, yep.
with Kate Mulgrew and Jerry
Yes,
Ryan.
Kate Mulgrew from Orange is the New Black.
Yep. Then you had Enterprise, which had Scott Bakula in it.
Oh my gosh, I don't think I even knew that.
Yeah, that one was in the early 2000s.
Okay.
And then that was the last show for a while. And then CBS launched their CBS All Access, which is now Paramount Plus. And when they launched that, which is their streaming service, they created a new Star Trek show.
Oh, cool.
Which is called Discovery. So Discovery is 7. Then they created another show called Picard, which brings back Patrick Stewart, as well as Jerry Ryan.
Is that Data?
No,
Jerry Ryan?
well,
Oh,
no,
no.
Jerry Ryan was 7 of 9 from Voyager. Data
Oh.
is in it as well with Brent Spiner.
I thought so. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, I knew they were current series, but because I
There are.
saw I think my dad was watching it the other day, and I saw oh my gosh.
And then after Picard, there's Lower Decks, which is a fantastically funny cartoon. Not necessarily for kids, but it's definitely more adult oriented, kind of like the Rick and Morty and all that.
Gotcha.
But it's about the non-commissioned officers, so the people that work on the lower decks.
So it is like a comedy. It's like
it's
what a great angle.
I think some of the people from Rick and Morty actually went over and make Lower Decks.
That's funny.
So that's 9. And then depending on who you ask, there's 10, because between seasons of shows, they started doing what were called short treks, which were like 5-10 minute long things that kind of filled in things between shows. There's one with H. John Benjamin, which is fantastically funny, with Tribbles, which are little fur balls that.
Ooh, I like anything that's a fur ball, so I'm in.
So that can make it 10 if you count short treks as a series. But there's also another cartoon show that's getting ready to come out on Nickelodeon called Prodigy.
And that is a kid show, you said.
Yeah, it's geared for kids, but it's got Kate Mulgrew coming back as Captain Janeway. As a Trekkie, it's really nice to have all the Star Trek coming out of it.
My takeaway is that Star Trek is being really good to its fans and giving them some good content, and it also seems that they're really trying to reach a wide audience, including younger people, to probably, my guess would be, to continue the franchise. So that's they're doing some work, man. I did not know that. I'm learning.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for catching me up. Let's move on to number 3 for your Survivor quiz. This one has a visual aid, all right? So there's a photo that we're looking at. You can go to lackofgenius.com to look at it as well. And number 3 says, taken in 2006 at Cape Town International Airport, the above photo features Kevin, that's me, with Survivor winner Ethan Zahn. Which season did Ethan win? So you can go and look at this picture. And the choices are Season 1, Borneo, Season 2, the Australian Outback, Season 3, Africa, or Season 4, Marquesas.
I just want to point out to people that Kevin's hair kind of looks like the bad guy from The Incredibles, the first movie.
Yeah, it's like a fro, but kind of like pointed up, right?
Right. Well, and the color of the picture makes it look reddish.
Okay, so here's a fun, quick story behind that, is that when you knew me at Manchester, I had short hair that was dyed orange.
Yeah.
And then I came back to LA and then had this trip like a month later, so I dyed that orange hair brown to look normal, and it kind of came out in this reddish color.
But the fact, I feel like the fact that you put Cape Town International, I feel like that's kind of a clue. Knowing that it's from 2006.
Uh-huh.
I know Survivor came out of the writer's strike that happened really early on in the 2000s. I want to go with Season 3, Africa.
All right, is that your choice?
That's my choice.
Great job, John. You got it. Yeah, it's funny. I thought it would go the other way around, where you'd see Cape Town is in South Africa. I thought maybe you'd be like, okay, he wants me to think it's Africa, and I thought you'd choose something else. So well done. Way to get by that. Yeah, this is Ethan Zahn. He won Season 3. He came back and played 2 more times, I think. So I think he's played a total of 3 games. He came back in what was one of the really great early seasons, which was Survivor All-Stars. And he may have come back one other time, but he for sure was in the all-winter season that just aired. And he got to like midway. He didn't win. But if you humor me for a second, I want to read something for you, okay? Hang on. Okay, so I kept a journal while I was on this trip, and I found the journal. Here's what I wrote about that time. This was on January 8th, 2006. I'm on the plane to Cape Town. It's been in the air for almost 4 hours now. I just got up to pee a few minutes ago, and guess who I saw? And then in parentheses, I put, I bet you already know. Like I'm writing to myself in the future, saying, and I do know. And I said, Ethan, the winner of Survivor Africa. He's totally my favorite Survivor contestant ever. I was in line for the bathroom, and I saw the back of his head and thought, that guy's hair looks like Ethan from Survivors. Then he turned toward me, and it was him. And then later I wrote, I know he would probably hate it, but I really want a picture with him, and I'd really just like to talk to him because he seems like such a cool, level-headed guy. Here's hoping you'll be seeing a picture of me with Ethan from Survivor Africa sometime soon. And John, you got to see the picture, didn't you?
I did.
And I wrote more in the journal. I won't read it, but like I had a really good conversation with him. He was in Africa because with his winnings, he started a charity that does AIDS education through soccer in Africa. And he's a former professional soccer player, Ethan is. So we talked about that. He was also with his girlfriend, who was the winner of Survivor Amazon. Her name is Jenna. And so I got to meet 2 winners at one time. It was a magical moment in my life. So thank you for letting me share it.
Yeah. You ready for your next question?
Bring it on. Star Trek number 4, right?
Yep. It's a true or false.
Oh, gosh.
Nobody ever says, beam me up, Scotty.
True or false? Wow. Okay, that's like probably the most famous line, I'm putting in air quotes right now, from Star Trek. Everybody knows, beam me up, Scotty. That's Scott. I do believe that Scotty is the character who does beam people up. He runs the transporter machine that I don't know the name of. And this very much reminds me of like in Star Wars, for example, it's never actually said, Luke, I am your father. That's like the popular line that people say, but all he says is, I am your father. Like he doesn't, anyways. So now I'm wondering, okay, you knew that I was going to know that, didn't you, John? You knew that I was going to know that about Star Wars. And you're like, look, I just play games with myself when we do this. I have to choose true. I am choosing true that nobody ever says, beam me up, Scotty.
Correct.
Yes.
Just like in Star Wars, he never says, Luke, I am your father. As far as I know, no one actually ever says, beam me up, Scotty.
Wow.
There's variations of it, but no one ever actually says that.
Now, is this based on your own research?
This is something that, other people have actually gone through. And the only thing I'm not entirely sure of is with the newer movies where Simon Pegg plays Scotty and stuff. I don't quite remember on that, but as in the original series, no one ever said that.
I would bet that they do say it in the movies because it's become such a popular line in culture, in pop culture, that they probably snuck it in.
It's possible.
And I think in the TV series, that's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that puts me at 3 for 4, and we are moving on to question 4 for you for Survivor,
Yep.
right?
And I'm 2 for 3 so
2
far.
2 for 3,
so.
yeah, we're doing pretty good. All right, here we go. Which of the following countries has hosted the most seasons of Survivor? Is it A, Nicaragua, B, Philippines, C, Samoa, or D, Fiji?
I'm gonna rule out Samoa just because of the size of Samoa. I know there's multiple islands, but I feel like it's not that big of a place to do it multiple times. Nicaragua, with political tensions and stuff there, I can see that not happening very often. So kind of between the Philippines and Fiji. I think I'm going to go with Fiji just because of, it's Fiji. They can use that as a draw to get contestants and get people to want to go there because then they could be like, hey, I went to Fiji. So I'm going to go with Fiji.
That's correct. Wow, that logic may be true. So from what I've read, I think just the environment there, how nice it is, the people that they work with. Much like you said, Nicaragua has political issues. There's countries where it's dangerous and difficult to travel to. Fiji is just really convenient for the crew. So between the other three options, Nicaragua, Philippines, and Samoa, there have been 4 seasons at each of those locations. There's been 9 seasons at Fiji. And the last, it is the last 9 seasons have been filmed in Fiji. So they just keep using the same location now. And seasons 41 and 42 coming up are both in Fiji. So it used to be that Survivor was all about like, well, now we're in Australia, now we're in Africa. And now the backdrop doesn't matter as much. It's kind of just more about the game. So they were like, as long as we're on an island, and Fiji's as good an island as any, so let's go for it.
Conversation from last week, I still think they should do like Northern Canada or, one of the Aleutian Islands. It's still an island.
That's true. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, there have never been any seasons in North America or Europe or Antarctica. Most of them have been in the oceanic continents. Okay, so
we're tied.
That just put you at 3 for 4. I'm also 3 for 4, and we're moving on to question 5 for each of us.
This actress was a part of every series in most movies up until her death. Nichelle Nichols. Majel Barrett Roddenberry. I think I said her first name right. It's either Majel or Majel. Whoopi Goldberg.
Okay.
Or Jerry Ryan.
All right, let me do a rundown. Nichelle Nichols, we established from the first question, was in the original series. So it is possible that she has been in every episode, or every series, that is. I don't know who Majel Barrett Roddenberry is, but based on you saying who the writer was, I believe the creator of Star Trek's last name is Roddenberry. So this could be a wife or a sister, and maybe for that reason was put in. Whoopi Goldberg, I know, was in The Next Generation, and I have no idea who Jerry Ryan is. That's Jerry with one R, assuming you Jeri, which is a very unique spelling of Jerry, and how I would spell Jerry if my name were Jerry. I think Nichelle Nichols is because that's the only one that I know for sure was in the first season. I think I have to pick her, and I'm going to. I'm picking Nichelle Nichols.
Incorrect.
That was a dumb guess, Kevin.
It's actually Majel Barrett Roddenberry.
So was
you
I
are
right
correct.
Thinking
she is Gene Roddenberry's wife.
Okay.
But she was an actress as well. She actually was in the pilot episode of the original series as number 1, the executive to the captain. They recast after the pilot, and so then she became a nurse in Next Generation. She did a couple roles. She was the voice of the computer. So if you ever think of Star Trek and you think of the computer voice, that's her.
That's her. In Next Generation or in
Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, I think Enterprise as well. And then she also played on Next Generation. There's a character of Deanna Troi. She played Deanna Troy's mom, Loxana Troi. And so she had that character as Next Generation as well as Enterprise. Shortly before she died, in I believe 2008, she recorded computer lines for the 2009 movie.
Wow, they got it in, and so she posthumously technically starred in this. Had a role in these movies. That's pretty great. Is this something that most Trekkies, as you said earlier, kind of know, or is this sort of a fun fact that you kind of have to dig deep to discover?
I think Trek, a lot of Trekkies would know that already. Maybe not necessarily put 2 and 2 together that she was in almost every single thing.
All right, well, great question. So I ended up 3 out of 5. I started off hot. I was 2 for 2, and then I finished 1 for 3. So 3 for 5 is mine. You are trying to beat me now because you're 3 for 4 going into your last question. So here it is. Of the 40 seasons of Survivor that have aired, how many were won by women? 40 seasons, how many won by women? 13, 15, 17, or 21?
Oh, let's see here. I mean, ideally it'd be, 50-50. Well, not necessarily 50-50. That's taking a very black and white look at it. I don't think it's 21. I'm going to go with 17.
17. Of the 40 seasons of Survivor, you're saying 17 have been won by women. Is that your final choice?
It's a nice prime number.
It is a nice prime number, but it is an incorrect number. Wow, we tied. It is 15, which I was actually surprised that it was as low as that. I mean, it's still definitely a respectable number, but I would have thought it would have been closer to an even 20-20. So yeah, 25 times a male has won, 15 times a female. I will say that, like, as I kind of looked through the history, it remained pretty close for most of the time, and then men just started getting a slight edge. The last 6 seasons, though, have been won by men, so that really, like, pushed the scales up.
Okay.
One thing that I do that I meant to share at the beginning, my family and I, we don't watch the seasons together, but we do watch every season. And what we do is in the first episode, before they give any information about any of the cast members, so we just are looking at them with no information about them, we all pick who we think is going to win. So, like, before they even open their mouths and we even know what kind of person they are, my mom, my sister, my brother, we all pick someone to win, and then we usually pick a second person, because if the first person gets eliminated right away. I think I've once or twice been correct. I also have once chosen somebody who got eliminated on the first episode, so that was a bummer. But it's a fun game to play within the game for us and our family, so I always have a good time with that.
Cool.
You know, it may not be an even split of men and women in Survivor, but it's an even split for us today. Both going 3 for 5.
Yeah, I didn't do too well this week compared to the last 2, so there's always next week.
People have high expectations of you now, John. They're expecting at least a 4 out of 5 out of you, and I think they were hoping for perfection today.
But I mean, if there was perfection, then the name of the show wouldn't be correct.
That's true. Which, by the way, I've been meaning to share this as well, that multiple times when I've texted people the name of the show to let them know about it, I've misspelled genius. Multiple times. I spell it GENUIS instead of IUS. Anyways, yeah, so I'm living proof of lack of genius by misspelling the word genius. Next week, hometowns, right, John?
Yeah, let's do hometowns.
What's your hometown?
Hometown of Muncie, Indiana.
And while I typically say Los Angeles just because it's easy to know where it is, and I do currently live in Los Angeles, my hometown and where I've spent most of my life is Lomita, California. I was about to give information about it, but I'm not going to because I'm going to quiz you on it. These are small cities, and I think it'll be a cool way to it'll tell a little bit about us, but also I think it's cool to learn about little cities that are, people don't, or lesser known, but still have an identity. So it'll be fun to go through some of that.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily say Muncie's a little city, but I mean, it's not LA either, so.
I guess lesser known, which I always tell the story about why I know Muncie, and it's because they make fun of it on the show Parks and Recreation all the time, because they're from Indiana, and there's one of the characters who has a vacation house in Muncie, and it's like, the joke is like, that's the lamest place you could have a vacation house. And I say that with love. It's just the way the show does it, but I'm sure it's a wonderful place.
And I being from Muncie and Indiana and everything, I enjoyed Parks and Rec. It's fantastically funny.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad to hear that, because from here it's funny because most of it was filmed in LA, but it took place in your hometown. So there's just more reason for us to be together right now. This is true love, John, is what it is.
And I won't use this as a question next week, so it's not a freebie for you.
Okay.
But the map of Pawnee from Parks and Rec, from my understanding, is just the map of Muncie upside down.
No, that is the best Parks and Rec fact I've ever heard. We're gonna have to do like just a Parks and Rec episode altogether. Is what we're gonna have to do.
Maybe.
Wow, you already get 1 point for next week for that fact right there. All right, well, I'm excited to learn a little bit about Muncie and teach a little bit about Lomita, and excited to have you, the listener, back next episode. Do we have any last notes you wanted to add?
Reach out to us on our socials. Lack of Genius Facebook page, Lack of Genius on Instagram, Lack of Genius podcast at gmail.com. We have the YouTube channel, Lack of Genius, and we've got the Patreon page. Check us out there. Leave us comments. Tell us how bad we're doing, and
tell us just how much genius we lack.
Yes.
And we're going to keep reminding you to do this until you do it. So just do it. And your comment can literally be, stop telling us to leave comments on our socials.
I mean, we have gotten a review on the Apple Podcast app.
I saw that today.
I don't know B-Nye or B-Nee.
Or Benny. I don't know. Benny. I thought it was someone you knew.
That doesn't ring a bell to me. But evidently their kids and them look forward to the podcast every week.
That's what they said.
Want us to keep it going. So
and what's the name? How is it spelled again?
It's B-N space N-I-I.
B-Nye, B-Nee, Benny, whoever you are, we appreciate you. Thank you. You just got a shout out on our show. All right, John. Well, great job today. Yeah. Let's see how we do next week. And man, it's always a pleasure chatting on this mic with you.
Yeah, always.
All right, John. Catch you later, dude. See you, everyone.
See ya.
It's the Lack of Genius podcast in your ear holes at last. They don't know they're Mars from Venus, that's why it's the Lack of Genius podcast.